We needed a topic for the show. I had ideas, but nothing set in stone. I started to dig through archives online, notes that I had already. I even kicked around a few ideas with some other tattoo artists that I'm friends with. But then I realized I had one right under my nose the whole time and I didn't even think about it. It was right there the whole time.
Been a snake, would have bit me.
I literally just talked about it on my last episode with Baba, the tattoo artist from LA. I mean, it's only one of the most influential places in America for tattooing. What is this magical place, you say? Well, New York City had the Bowery, which most people consider to be the most influential place in America. California wasn't about to be counted out, though. They had the Pike, known as the Coney Island of the West. The Pike, as it's known by locals, has the official name of the Pike Amusement Zone. Located in Long Beach, California, it was famous for its entertainment, amusements, and ground zero for the West Coast tattoo culture. Tattooing became prominent there due to servicemen, sailors, and a vibrant nightlife. It opened in 1893 and quickly became known for a place of entertainment and a great time with family and friends. It unfortunately ended at around 1979. It featured a long waterfront pier with carnival rides, shooting galleries, arcades, theaters, cotton candy stands, and cafes. For you East Coast folks, or maybe you New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania folks, just think of it as the boardwalk down the Jersey Shore. Built by Charles Loof, a legendary figure in the amusement business, he built his first carousel for Coney Island in 1875. He owned and operated the Pike Amusement Center. Loof was a master craftsman and a carousel builder. Now the Pike was a perfect place to set up a shop and do tattoos. Why, you say? Because it had a close proximity to military service installations. There was the Naval Station at Long Beach, the Long Beach Army Terminal, and the Los Alamitos Training Base Facility. The Long Beach Army Terminal was actually a major hub during World War II. The sailors and merchant marines would get a paycheck every other week or maybe once a month, and the shops knew it. They were set up and ready to rock and roll. During the shop's heydays, there were guys and girls that would wait in line for 3 hours to get a tattoo from Bert Grimm. Tattooers would work in shifts and keep the shop open for 24 hours a day in order to knock out as many tattoos as they possibly could. Now, as far as the Pike's concerned, it has some of the biggest names in tattoo lore that worked there during the 50s, 60s, and even into the 70s. The first, which we've already mentioned, is Bert Grimm. Now, we could do a full episode on Bert Grimm. The guy's an absolute legend. He deserves his own standalone episode, so maybe at another time, we'll get to that. He opened up Bert Grimm's world-famous tattoo parlor in 1952 or 1954, depending on who you ask and who's telling the story. After doing tattoos for years in St. Louis, he decided to pack up his stuff and move to California, and he set up shop at 22 Chestnut Street. Now, this shop was previously called The Professionals, and it opened in 1927. No one really knows who the original owners were. They just have the name of the shop and when it was opened. By 1956, him and his wife Julia had owned and operated 5 of the 12 shops that were in the Pike at the time. Bert's 22 Chestnut Street shop has passed through a bunch of different owners' hands. It is still considered to be the oldest continually running tattoo shop in the United States and the second oldest continually running tattoo shop in the world. Speaking of other owners, the next owner, who's also a tattoo legend, bought 22 Chestnut Street, and his name was Bob Shaw. In 1969, Bert was ready to retire. Now, Bob Shaw had worked for him for about 15 years at that time, and he put his money together and decided to purchase the shop off of Bert Grimm. During those 15 years that Bob was there was a list of tattoo artists that came through the shop. It's like a who's who of tattoo legend history. Don Nolan, Zeke Owens, Phil Simms, Bob Roberts, Rick Walters, Mike Malone. In 1973, Bob Shaw talked his old friend, Colonel Todd, to go ahead and move west to join him at the shop in California. Now, this is worth mentioning because Colonel Todd and Bob Shaw were actually working together to build machines. They redesigned and perfected one of the original Jonesy Swingate style machines, which became industry standard. During this time frame, they also bought Bert's other shops in San Diego and Portland, Oregon. Now, during the 1970s, Bob's other sons became tattoo artists as well. Now, Bobby brought aboard a young up-and-coming tattoo artist, Bob Roberts. Do you know how odd it is for me to call Bob Roberts a newcomer? Jesus, it doesn't even compute. After Bob passed away in 1993, his wife Wanda ran the shop until the year 2002. When she passed away, sons Larry and Bob began the process of selling the shop. Now this circles back to me having the story right under my nose the whole time. Baba told the tale of Rick Walters, who was the manager of Bert Grimm's at the time, not having a job after the shop was sold, and him taking him on board to work at his shop for him. It all comes full circle, folks. The shop was sold to tattooist Kerry Barba and is now known as Outer Limits Tattoo, where there's also a tattoo shop and a museum to commemorate the tradition that has happened in that building. Hey everybody, if you like this episode, please make sure you like and subscribe. It helps out the channel, and we truly do appreciate it. Now, like I said earlier, in 1956, we know that there were 12 shops that were located in the Pike at the time. For me to get this information, I really had to do some deep digging. Surprisingly, the information's not very easy to get a hold of. A lot of the information is overshadowed by information on Bert Grimm's shop because it was the most popular out of all the shops. Now I'm going to go through a couple of the tattoo artists that I know did work there or found information stating that they did work there. The first one is Owen Jensen. Now Owen worked all over the United States, but at the end of his career, he was working at the Pike. At the time, he was working at Leroy Minoff's shop at 26 Chestnut Street. Now at the time of his death in 1977, the Pike had really gone downhill. From what I read, both Minoff and Jensen carried Derringer pistols with them to work every day because of the amount of crime and the fear of getting robbed. On July 5th, 1976, Owen Jensen was grabbed around the neck and stabbed in the back for $30 by a group of punks that came in there to rob the shop. It was noted that they probably caught him off guard with him not being able to reach for his Derringer pistol. Now, Jensen never recovered from the beating, and he died on July 24th from complications to the beating that happened at the shop. The next tattoo artist that, again, deserves his own episode, as do most of these guys, is Lyle Tuttle. Lyle Tuttle started tattooing in 1949. Not only was he a tattoo artist, but he was also a historian of tattoos and the craft itself. Now, Lyle had been tattooing for quite some time when he got the call from Bert Grimm to come work for him at his shop at 16 Cedar Way on the Pike. During the time that he worked at Bert's shop, Bert tattooed most of Lyle's bodysuit, including the iconic back piece that was done called the Duel in the Sun. He also did Lyle's signature chest piece that you see in most of the photographs of Lyle back in the day. Lyle, from what I can see, from what I've read, was kind of like one of the first rock star tattoo artists. He tattooed a slew of musicians, actors, and other celebrities, most notably the Allman Brothers, but I would say the biggest one in my book would be the tattoos that he did on Janis Joplin. Again, we have another legendary tattoo artist that would need his full episode just on himself to get the full impact and understand how much he gave to the art of tattooing. The next tattoo artist on my list is Rick Walters. He managed the shop for Bert Grimm from 1978 until the year 2002. Rick was born in Chicago, but he grew up in Hawthorne, California. In 1959, he ventured down to the Pike and got a tattoo on his leg and was instantly hooked. So after the shop closed, he took a little bit of time off and then had a heart attack. It wasn't much longer after that he went right back to tattooing. Needless to say, Rick Walters was one of the original badass tattoo artists. He eventually wound up opening up his own shop in Sunset Beach, California, Rick Walters' world famous tattoo parlor. Now, Rick became a mentor to multiple tattoo artists, teaching the rules and traditions of American traditional tattooing. Now, Zeke Owens is the next tattooist on my list. He is the nephew of Ernie Sutton, another legendary Pike tattoo artist. Zeke Owens started working on the Pike in 1957. After leaving the Pike, he moved to San Diego and then to Seattle, where he owned and operated the Tradewinds tattoo shop, which he eventually sold to another tattoo legend, Danny Danzel. I might be pronouncing his last name wrong, not 100% about that. After he sold the shop, he went and moved to Guam, and he opened up a tattoo shop. He then moved to Hawaii, where he worked for probably one of the biggest known, maybe even the biggest legend of all tattoo artists, Sailor Jerry Collins. Later in the mid-60s, he brought in tattoo artist Ed Hardy to the shop in San Diego. Again, another legend. Can you see how all these legends kind of intertwine and weave into this story of the Pike? This is why I'm doing an episode on the Pike, folks. This is one of the greatest tattoo places ever, hands down. You have the Bowery in New York, the Pike in LA, Long Beach, and the tattoos that were happening in London and in the UK. Mike Malone, aka Rolo, also worked at Zeke's shop in San Diego. Another tattoo legend. He's more of tattoo artist. The list of Pike tattoo artists just goes on and on and on. A list full of legends. You could literally go and spend hours and hours and hours going down a rabbit hole looking into each and every one of these tattoo artists. I'm a firm believer that you need to understand the history in order to understand the future. I implore you, if you're a tattoo artist or you're a tattoo enthusiast, learn your history, dig deep, open up a book, open up your laptop, do some searches, find out about some of these people. These are the people that laid down the foundations and the tracks for all the tattoo artists that are working today. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Look forward to the next one.